Hey everybody, how are you? I hope you're doing well. Um, so it is Into the Core podcast with Linda, and I have an amazing guest. As always, and as I always tell you, we got to do the cool intro. It was made by a beautiful person, Kenny Allen. Thank you so much for this beautiful intro. But my guest tonight, and East Coast, West Coast, time differences, but amazing stories. I hope you get inspired by this. So before I introduce him to you, let's do our intro to Into the Core. Into the Core.
Get into it.
All good things in Africa and beyond. Africa and beyond. Definitely and beyond. Tonight we're going beyond, and we are talking to Stephen Lyon. He's an amazing model. He's an amazing photographer. He's a director. He is an animal activist. Stephen, welcome to Into the Core podcast.
Hi. Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Oh my gosh, you're most welcome. So we definitely have a couple of places in common, and
Yes,
we so I was in California. I was in California, and I was so excited, especially when I knew that you were in California. I was like, oh, somebody I can relate to and who understands me. And while we were doing our catch up, I asked you, some of my favorite places to go, and you and I are frequenters. And now Robin Ruiz, wherever you are, Robin, I'm thinking about you. So I had a spot up on Sunset called Trocaderos.
Trocaderos, that's right. I haven't met anybody in many years that even mentioned that name, so it definitely was one of my haunts back in those days. I loved it.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, mac and cheese and a good glass of wine, and you just sit and people watch the whole night, and you're great background music, but the food was always excellent. So
yes, it was.
Yeah, anyone from Trocaderos, please reach out to us. We love you.
Okay.
I just want a package of mac and cheese sent to Kenya. I don't know how you're going to do it, but it's crazy times. So how are you, Stephen?
I'm good. I'm good.
How are you? Yeah?
You're catching me. I'm actually up in a cabin up in Big Bear Lake. That's where I've been spending the pandemic. Is in my family has a cabin up here since the early 70s. So I came up here about 2 years ago to work on some personal projects and some writing. And actually, this is where I'm editing the documentary, which we will talk about, Something That Matters. I'm doing all the editing up here in the mountains. So when the pandemic hit, I was already here, and I was just like, thank my lucky stars that I'm sitting in a nice cabin in the woods, going hiking every day, than locked down in Los Angeles, New York, or Paris, which was most likely where I would have been.
Well, what a beautiful place. I mean, like, Big Bear Lake is just gorgeous. And earlier on, you showed me your backdrop, and I was just like, okay, I like that. That's beautiful.
Right.
That is beautiful. Nature is always great. It's always healing.
Nature's really great. I mean, I love it up here. I do miss people a little bit, but I'm working on a lot of personal projects where I don't really need to be in New York or LA or anything. So it suits me just fine to be up here in the mountains and focusing on things that are important for me at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. So if I was to do an intro to you, I called you the Renaissance man because I just think that you You have, oh, okay, so my brother was like, he looks like he was in the Wild West movie. And I was like, yeah, he's got that beautiful. And then I was
That would be
like,
fun.
and I have friends who are, you know, they just love you. You know, all my beautiful female friends are just like, who is that guy? The guy's
Well,
not some the guys are just like, okay, all right, so who's this guy? Who's he? And I'm like, you will find out, listen in and find out about his work. So can we
okay.
start with talking about your work? Let's talk about your modeling career and what led you into
Well,
photography.
I mean, the modeling career was a long time ago. So,
I know.
um,
I have to start with that because I know you're still modeling. You still
well,
have some campaigns that you
I
do.
do special bookings every now and then, but it's not on my resume. It's not on my Instagram bio that I'm a model. It's
Gotcha.
it's something I had a great career back in the 80s and the early 90s. I had a fantastic career, and I lived in Paris, and it was a great life for about 15 years. But
Yeah.
I hung that hat up in the mid 90s, and it wasn't until recently with this movie and my photography career and whatnot that I decided to put myself out there for special things again. And I wasn't sure if I would even like being back on the other side of the camera. And boy, it's a lot more fun. It's a lot easier than being a photographer, being a model, I can tell you that. So the few times a year when I do a modeling job, it's usually a pretty good job, and it's with a good photographer, and it's a really fun day for me. I enjoy it. But would I want to say this is what I do for a living now? No, because it's not. And I wouldn't really want
Yeah.
it to be. I'm so happy I had my career back in the time in fashion that I did, because it was really the heyday of modeling for
Right.
men and women. It was a phenomenal decade.
Absolutely. I mean,
It's super
Linda
fun.
Iman.
It was sex, drugs, and rock and roll. What can we say? That was the industry.
I've been waiting for somebody to be very honest and to say that sex, drugs, and rock and roll because
Oh, it was.
exactly, you're right. That's what it was. That's what it
Yeah,
was.
super fun. And then
Um,
I lived most of my career in Paris, so I had a great flat in Paris, and that's where I was. That was my base. I love Paris. I'll probably move back again one day, I'm sure.
of course you will. I mean, like I
Yeah, of
hope so,
course I
and
will.
I
Yeah.
hope, and I really hope, like, post everything that is happening because I know you're working on so many beautiful things, and we're going to get into those in just a few, but um then let's talk about how from modeling how you got into the whole photography space. Were you always a photographer, or was that something that you
No,
yeah.
I was on a trip to Bali with my girlfriend, um, and I bought a really cool Nikon film F4 film camera in Singapore on the way, and I just started shooting mostly my girlfriends, quite honestly. So I wasn't a photographer by any means. And in '93 or '4, when I retired, when I stopped modeling, I bought a house in Los Angeles, and I was really going to be an actor because I made some movies in the '80s and I really loved it. I did theater and I studied for years, and I just really loved the whole thing. Um,
Yeah.
but so I started shooting on the weekends. My friends like, hey Steve, let's take the truck and go out to the desert. And yeah, why not? Okay. And most of my friends were beautiful girls, models, and half of those were Playboy bunnies. And so needless to say, shooting nudes came immediately. And
Yeah.
of course, I had the aesthetic and the history of idolizing photographers like Greg Gorman and Herb Ritz and Bruce Weber, people that really shot nudity in a really beautiful, um, empowering way. And I adopted that style immediately. Um, and then it was later that I decided to actually move back to Paris and be a photographer. that I switched from shooting playmates to models in clothes.
Right.
And I had dinner with my friends in Los Angeles, and I said, I think in a year I'm going to move back to Paris, because if I'm going to be a photographer, that's where it has to happen. Certainly not in
Right.
Los Angeles. And
Right.
almost to the day, I boarded a plane um, with a bunch of camera equipment that I really didn't hardly know how to work, for that matter. And my house was robbed in Los Angeles, so I took the insurance money and walked into Sammy's camera and dropped like 40 grand on camera stuff. And then
Nice.
and then the 2 weeks later, I boarded a plane for Paris and with my dog, Rufus, and I didn't come back to America for 5 years. Not for Christmas, not
Wow.
for anything. I just wanted to have. It wasn't the right decision because of my family and my friends and whatnot. But I was so committed to trying to make it and make mark as a photographer that I didn't want to come home till I really had done something. So it was about 5 years before I was shooting for good magazines, and then I came home.
And And what was that like? I mean, like a lot of people are very scared of taking risks, when it comes to
Mm.
something, especially when you have, you did it, you were like, okay,
Yeah,
I'm going to take this risk. I'm going to get myself out there and I'm
yeah.
going for it. I mean, I do understand the price to pay with family and friends, but I mean, do you think it's a worth enough risk for people to take whenever they feel passionate about something,
Well,
especially?
years before, in 1984, January '84, um, I jumped on a plane with didn't know a soul to Paris to be a model, you know.
Right.
Um, and it was a spur of the moment thing. I was doing a little modeling in Los Angeles, but I was trying to, break into acting and stuff. And I was up for a movie, and then in the end, I didn't get it. And it was Christmas time, and I just said, what, I'm going to go to Paris. Fuck it, I'm gonna. And I met a guy on a modeling gig in December, and he just graduated from UCSB, and he's like, I got nothing to do. Let's go. So I hardly knew
Yeah.
him, but he and I jumped on a plane together and went to Paris and arrived, and it was like 20 below, and all I had was shorts basically. And uh,
You're such a proud.
the first week I was there, I was opening up the Jean Paul Gaultier show and shooting campaign. And it was just like a rocket ship. So super fun. We had a good time.
Well, that's
And
amazing. Okay, so wait.
I
Let's
stayed. I
let's
stayed a year before. I
backtrack.
stayed a year on that first trip. I didn't come back for a year. I stayed in Paris for a year.
Okay, so if I was to go back, I mean, like you went there, and then a week later, you're shooting one of the hottest campaigns that was happening. I
Mm.
mean, was that through introduction, or is that just you being, um,
No, I first of all, in January it was show season,
of
and
course.
I went on the first day I got off the plane, my agent, I had an agent lined up. Anyway, but the best one actually. They
Right.
immediately handed me a list and a Plan de Paris, which is a map book. There's no cell phones with Google Maps back then.
Yeah.
You had a map and said start, go on casting. So anyway, I probably waited 3 hours and met Jean Paul Gaultier. And actually, it's
Hey,
funny. I walked the show with my own cowboy boots. He loved my boots, so I wore them in the show. And
that
and he
is
used to
so
and he
cool.
and he used to, because I was super blonde naturally, curly hair. He used to call me Marilyn. It's kind of embarrassing, but that was fun. He's a lovely man, and I ended up working for him many times over my career. So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Are there
I booked the
are there any
campaign. So
other than Jean Paul Gaultier? Are there any other fabulous brands that for you like really stood out and that you made like an interconnection just because of just
I mean,
and I say
it.
it's like an honest approach in your in what you do.
I mean, I was a Versace guy. I did the Versace perfume, the clothing for 6 or 7 years. I was under contract with Trussardi, so 3 times a year I was shooting the Trussardi campaign. Armani, Club Montana, like 4 or 5 times shot by Paolo Roversi. Allegri, Trudy campaign in Paris, shot by Paolo Roversi. I did a lot of advertising campaigns.
Right.
Besides, doing a lot of work for Womo Vogue and Vogue Home and editorial and stuff. And Germany was my cash cow. I worked a lot in Germany, made a lot of money there. Germany was great.
What do you love about Germany? I mean, like
I like Germany. I like it there.
And you have to tell me which part of Germany, because I hear these places in Germany that is so beautifully cultured, eccentric, and
I
the
mean,
works.
Hamburg is a gorgeous city. I love Hamburg. The Reeperbahn is super fun. Munich, again, also gorgeous. This is where you went a lot if you were modeling in Germany. You went to Hamburg a lot, and you went to Munich a lot, sometimes Stuttgart. And sometimes, Berlin, I worked in Berlin quite a few times when the wall was up, actually. But now Berlin is the place to be. If I was to move to Germany tomorrow, I would move to Berlin. That would be my place. It's really sexy.
That's
A lot of artists, and just it's really free and open, and I like that kind of lifestyle. So Berlin would be my place today if I moved to Germany, which may happen to me. If I move back to Europe, it's either going to be London, Paris, or Berlin, one of the three.
Why, hello. So Waridi, so there's somebody who I would introduce to you in Berlin. She was a supermodel also. Well, Waridi, was it the 90s? Yeah, okay. Absolutely gorgeous, from Kenya. Yeah. I will introduce you guys so that you guys can meet, but she's in Berlin and she's absolutely fantastic.
Okay. I used to work a lot with him. I used to work a lot with Iman back in those days. A lot.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Iman okay, so secret. Is she a nice person, or is she like on the left side?
She was super nice. She was super nice. I mean,
awesome.
We go out to dinner or go out clubbing, and it was like, I don't care who walked in there. Everybody was looking at Iman. Everybody. It was pretty incredible, the attention she drew, and she was very gracious and nice. At least she was to me. So, and we were together over 5 or 6 years. Twice a year, we did the same campaign together. So and it was mostly naked, actually. she and I were always naked together. So anyway, it's a great memory for me, and certainly a highlight of my career to work with her, with Victor Skrybnevsky in Chicago. So I thought she was lovely. I thought she was super classy and sophisticated and interesting and breathtakingly beautiful woman.
She is. I mean, like, she gives us all just a slice of heaven. Let's talk about you as a director. Photography and then as a director. What's the transition?
Well,
because a lot of people don't really, everyone's just like, oh, I'll put a label on it, but let's talk about that transition.
Well, I mean, because I do have a history in films. I made some movies as an actor and studied acting, and always loved cinema and old cinema. And my photography really is if any word sums it up, it's cinematic. My work is very cinematic, and I light my photography jobs like it's a movie set. I use a movie crew. I have 20 people on the set moving old film lights around as if I was lighting Gone with the Wind instead of a modeling job. So it's very natural for me to find an aesthetic and direct things in that way. And I discovered that I really like writing. So I've written a couple of screenplays. The first one is called The Love We Deserve, and I will direct it. It's a period piece from the 70s. And I don't know if it's a natural thing. I love when people say modeling is a natural progression to photography, because it's really not. And I just off when people say that.
Right.
But it was for me. I mean, and I'm not even sure the modeling helped me. I was a pretty well-known model, but I would go to see people in Paris for photography. And all I wanted to do was talk about the 80s and the modeling jobs. They didn't even look at my work. They just want to
No,
talk
your
about the
work
band.
is your work is absolutely stunning, and
Thank you.
that's all. It makes a difference to understand you as a photographer, and then really understand the direction in how
Yeah,
you direct your photography, and how you've been exposed to two, well, similar but very different worlds. For those
right,
who really want to who really want to take up the conversation of being a photographer versus being a director, right?
right.
So it's always great to just understand that background. Um,
I've always been a jack of all trades and wanted to, like, I'm an editor. All my films that I've done so far, um, and even the documentary, I'm editing the piece. And that doesn't mean that in the future I'm going to be editing my feature movies myself. I won't be, but at least I can sit next to a professional editor and not talk out of my ass. I know what is possible, how to do it. We can talk in a professional way. It's the same with lighting. I light all my own jobs, but I also love to work with the DP because they can bring elements that maybe I won't see, but at least I can talk to them in a very professional manner because I can light my own sets. It's great not to have to. It's great to work with somebody and tell them what you want, and then they go out and do it. And usually they'll surprise me with something even more wonderful than I originally had anticipated. But at least I come from a place of experience and knowledge and telling them how to do their job. You know,
right.
I can't tell you how many photographers pull a picture out of a magazine and they hand it to some assistant and they say light it like that, and they have no idea how to do it themselves. And these are
Wow.
photographers that shoot. These are photographers that shoot for Vogue and very famous. So not everybody learns everything or feels the need to. I always felt the need to know how to do everything, so that I could, from a place of knowledge, speak with other professionals about my own imagery and also what I want to do in the future. So uh, I don't know. I'm a
No.
computer geek. I'm a computer geek. I'm a film geek, a photo geek. I process my negatives in a special solution. I don't just drop it in a lab. I like all these things. So
Yeah.
my old assistant in Paris is now opening an incredible um, alternative print lab in the UK, doing platinum and cyanotype and gum prints, and of course the resulted as well. And so he's doing all my printing for exhibitions and galleries and stuff, as well as other great professionals. And I love that kind of stuff. I love to take the old school techniques and bring them into today. You
Yeah.
know, bring them into today. So
No, that is brilliant. That is absolutely brilliant. Um, so let's move a little bit a step away, because I know that there's some beautiful work that you've been working on, and um, I was reading about your organization, and um, I was really blown away. And then I went and looked at the gallery, and I looked at the gallery, and then I started putting myself into your position. Um,
mm,
So let's talk about, to start with, let's start with Lionheart Love, because I know there's still a lot more stuff that we're going to be talking about. I mean,
mm.
we'll talk about your coffee table book. We'll talk about, oh my gosh, Andy Warhol. Wait, can we talk about Andy Warhol first before we get into your organization? Because I'm so, what?
yeah, people tend to like that story.
No,
I
please
did.
tell the story.
I do have an Andy Warhol experience. So, and unfortunately, it wasn't in Studio 54. I wish I had that one too, but I don't. Probably a good thing I was in
Well,
Paris. Probably a good thing I was in Paris during the Studio 54 years, because I might still be there, knowing
you're
me.
right.
I was before I ever started modeling. Um, I was walking Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood for whatever reason, and some man stopped me and just said, would you like to meet Andy Warhol? I work for him, and I think he'd like to photograph you. Here's my card. And quite honestly, I didn't know who Andy Warhol was. You know, I'm, I'm ashamed to say, but I
Look at
didn't
me.
know who it was.
Look at me looking at you. What? Well,
Right? Like what? What?
well, yeah,
I was a kid.
that's okay.
I was a guy from Newport Beach. I didn't know Andy Warhol. So, and this is probably in 1980. I'm imagining 80, 81, something like that.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
I went home. To my future father-in-law, who was a New Yorker, and I said, he goes, "What the fuck, Andy Warhol? Are you fucking kidding me? You call right away. You go there. He's very much like a mafia kind of dude in the garment industry." So, I called the number and I went that night to the Mondrian Hotel, and Andy answered the door, and he just, in his Andy Warhol way of speaking, he looked at me and he said, "You're really very, very beautiful." And that was how we met. I don't even know what I said. I probably didn't say anything back. And we had a little chat, and he said, "I'd love to photograph you tomorrow." He said, "You should come to New York. I do a little thing. I have a thing called the Factory. We make little movies and things. I think you'd be great in New York." And that wasn't going to happen. I was like, I wasn't going to New York. But I showed up the next morning at the Mondrian by the pool, and he said, "Would you mind if you were in your underwear?" And I'm like, "No." And so I was in my Calvins out by the pool, and Andy was shooting me on little. There was no digital, obviously, on little film cameras.
Of course, yeah.
And that was that. That's my Andy Warhol experience.
Do you still have any of those images?
Well, they were in the back of the interview because
you need to bring it back.
They were. Whoops! I moved my headset. They were in the back of the interview, and I have my agent trying to contact the Andy Warhol Foundation to try and source them.
Get those images, yeah, because I think that's such a beautiful and epic story. Because Andy Warhol, I mean, like everybody right now.
Why didn't I bring a little 35 millimeter camera and just take a little picture of the tube? I think back to myself, why didn't I shoot a picture? Why didn't I shoot a picture of Andy?
I know.
I didn't even think about it. Like,
I feel like the most unique moments, we never ever really get to capture the most of it, but we get to experience it and then translate the story. And then later on is when we're just like, where was my phone? Who had my phone? Where was my phone? It was, because nowadays we have access to, let's take the picture. Let's frame the picture. Or where's my camera? Because I walk around with it. But
we didn't have phones then.
Yeah, no, not at all.
A few weird people just had beepers. That was it.
Yeah. The Charmed guys had beepers.
I remember when I got my first beeper. Some salesman actually came to my apartment in LA to sell me a beeper. I paid $600. I paid $600 for some little piece of shit beeper that I would wear on my side, and I thought I was the coolest thing because now my agency could beat me, so I wouldn't have to call in all the time.
Which agency did you work for back in the 80s and the 90s, by the way? I never asked you this.
Well, there was then it was Nina Blanchard, and she was working really close with Eileen Ford in New York. So I was with Nina and Ford. That's how
fantastic.
That's how that happened. Yeah.
Hey, before, this is the time of the supermodels. I mean, like the greatest. Anyway, yeah, awesome. All right, let's get into something that you are very passionate about. So, what I love, really, truly love about you, I love, I'm on the fashion industry in Africa, and I really, I call myself a facilitator within the fashion industry. So I'm not a designer, but I love to see people do well. I love to promote the industry on a 360 holistic view. So a lot of stuff,
cool.
That we could talk about, but you, I really love your foundation and Lionheart Love. Um, I read that you walked 1,000 kilometers,
Yeah.
and there's the documentary that I really want you to talk about. There's quite a few amazing things that you're doing on the back end. You're, and when we say animal activists, a lot of people take those words for granted. But let's
Mm.
start. Let's start with how you started Lionheart Love, and where the story basically was born, and where you are right now with the story.
Well,
You know.
um, I've been going to Africa about a decade every year, maybe twice a year to photograph wildlife. I loved it from Paris. So, throughout Kenya, Tanzania, and South Africa, uh, I would go on safaris, and
Yeah.
I learned to love photographing wildlife. It's just a thrill for me, and the whole experience, the camps, the guides, the people. I usually spent New Year's Eve in some safari camp, and I was usually in the kitchen dancing with all the cooks, and it was just magical for me. And I happened to be on a safari in South Africa,
Yeah.
and my guide, we always I was trying to become buddy buddy with the guides, and they knew I was a professional photographer, so they would really give me. We went to some great locations. They would really try to impress me with the great locations they tried to find. So
Yeah.
I was told by one that he and a schoolmate of his, another guide in another camp, were organizing a 1,000-kilometer trek across Africa, um, in order to raise awareness to the poaching crisis, predominantly the rhinos, which most people aren't aware of as much as they are the elephants, especially
Yeah.
especially outside of Africa. And I thought, wow, that sounds really great. And they were just going to have it they were going to walk this 1,000 kilometers, and they were going to try and have, different radio stations and podcasts, um, you know, keep the people around Africa up, and hopefully that would bring more awareness to the situation, which is pretty horrible for these animals. So I thought that sounds amazing. God, you think I could come along? We're sitting at lunch in the back of a safari jeep. He said, well, "You want to?" I said, "Yeah, if you guys." And then I thought, if I do, I'm gonna bring a film crew and make a documentary. I never made a documentary in my life, or even thought about making one. I just knew that if I was going to do this, that's something that I could do to try to raise
Right.
awareness. I could try to make a movie and document our journey, because we were walking across Africa, really looking for answers, as to why a 15-year-old boy would take a gun and go out and shoot these animals, and usually it was because
Right.
somebody told them exactly where the rhino was. They paid off some guards to look the other way so they could go under the fence. They knew on a GPS where the animals were residing. I mean, this is a very coordinated effort, this poaching situation, and it's big money, and it's but we went to the villages and we talked to these guys. Some of them were convicted, some of them had been caught, some of them hadn't been caught, trying to find out really why they're doing that, because these animals are their animals. Those
Yeah.
rhinos and elephants, they belong to the African people, so why? And they're really, if the animals are poached and slaughtered, then the tourism won't be there. Nobody's going to go to Africa if there's no more elephants, lions, and rhinos. They're going to go do something else. So by killing off those animals, they're cutting off a main source of income for a lot of the villagers, because a lot of the villagers do work in safari lodges. So anyway, we walked 1,000 kilometers, and it was an incredible journey. It took almost 4 months. I lost 37 pounds. God, I looked like an old man when I finished it with my shirt off. It was unbelievable. And I ran out of money.
What was
I mean,
that, good or bad?
I
Yeah.
ran out of money just as we finished the 1,000 kilometers, because I had some other things that I wanted to do, but I just couldn't. I couldn't afford to stay with my crew and my team. You know, everybody was getting a paycheck but me. So even my close friends that I brought were making a substantial amount of money to do this. So I had to leave, but the 1,000 kilometers was finished, and I thought, given the fact that I had this experience and this footage, and it's a journey, and it's really my journey. Like, I went to Africa to discover some things that I had no idea that I would find, and the things we did discover are just so compelling and so interesting, and it changed my life. And unbelievably so, it's taken me years now to find the added funds that I need to finish the movie. So I did find an angel
Wow.
investor. I did find an angel investor like 6 or 7 months ago, which enabled me to stop doing everything else I was doing and focus on editing this film. And
Yeah.
in doing so, it's going to be very interesting and very important. I need to go back to Africa to fill in the blanks between when I walked that 1,000 kilometers and there were such important, strong characters that were on that journey with me, and meet up with them again. And I think it'll be so interesting in the film to fill in the blanks. The poaching situation is worse than ever. It hasn't gotten any better. Um, and so, yeah, I'm still looking for some funding to go back to Africa for 2 weeks to do that. And then, of course, when the film edit is finished, because I'm doing the edit, then it's going to be expensive to do sound mixing, color grading, and we really want to launch this at Sundance 2022, and all those kinds of things take our money. But for me, it's always been step by step. Okay, great. First step, I went to Africa and walked 1,000 kilometers and had this amazing experience. Now the next step is creating, and the fact that it's taken so long between the first go around and now the second will only add to a compelling story, because you need to make a film that people want to watch. Otherwise, the message you're trying to convey will just get lost if nobody watches it. You know, so there's a lot of documentaries out there on poaching, but they don't really get seen very much. They don't,
Yeah.
and because this is a human journey, which no other filmmaker has done this kind of a journey and a trek to make a film. We're hoping that that'll be interesting and that people will want to watch it, you know. So yeah, that's
I have
kind
a
of where I'm
quick
at.
question.
Hmm.
I have a quick question for you.
Yeah.
Can you I don't know. I feel like the rain is coming in. I
Is
don't
it rain?
know. Uh yeah. I feel like Nairobi weather is very menopausal. Um I'm
Okay.
just saying it. We don't know whether to have, a heater on or the fan on. So, and
Right.
then when things start getting skewed, and then I'm always just like, what is a rain coming? So my question to you though is, would you be willing, in order to finish your film and your
Hmm.
project and everything, because you're doing everything on your own? I gotta
Which
put
is
tasks.
which is making it. If I wasn't, I would need a lot of money to finish it. But
Okay,
since I'm
so
doing things
my
myself, and I'm living up in the mountains in a family cabin, um, I don't need as much as if I was sitting in a Hollywood studio next to an editor watching them edit. You know, I have it's quite a unbelievable task. I have 320 hours of footage from that
so do you,
original trek.
so so what if we did a call out to some of my Kenyan comrades who are amazing in film, and we're doing some pretty big things. I mean, like, what if you found the two people or three people who could get you through something? I definitely know one amazing director. She's done some amazing stuff, and I am definitely going to introduce you to her. Her name is
Okay.
Lorella. and I think she's amazing. And I think that she could get you some, you know, um, I know you might want to do it on your own, but I'm just telling you, like, ease the burden. I'm here to help you
Well,
ease the burden. I
I
call myself a
understand.
facilitator.
I understand that, but the thing is it really needs to be me editing the film because I was there, and
Right.
um, nobody, somebody if somebody that wasn't there tries to edit this footage, they would never know what order the chronological, just it wouldn't make sense. It makes sense, and since I have the capability of editing, and I am a good editor, um, I certainly know how to work the programs pretty well.
All
It
right.
I think it needs to be me telling the story. Now,
Of
I
course.
I would like to take my edit to LA or anywhere for that matter, with an award-winning editor, and maybe together we can polish it up. Or but I think the initial edit needs to be done by me. Um,
Gotcha. Well, you know
and
what? Okay. So with that, I mean, like, let's talk about your biannual book. You have a book magazine that comes out and that people can access.
yeah,
Let's talk a little bit about that.
well, it's called Indulge, and originally it was going to be a magazine, but it's morphed into an incredible. It's going to be a book. It's a large format biannual book, and it focuses on the arts. I have great articles from world famous painters and sculptors and art dealers as well as photographers. There's no advertising. It's literally a beautiful. There's no digital work in it. It's all film photography, which is what I shoot and what I believe in. Um, for better or worse, that's what I do. All my images, 99% of them are shot on a film camera, not a digital camera. And I
Right.
even shoot wildlife on film cameras, which really isn't done very much anymore. But
But, but
the book Indulge, is being printed now in Europe. And I have distribution worldwide for it, and I'm very proud of it. And I it it's a portion of the proceeds of that book will also go towards wildlife conservation, and I'll be selling images from the book, and those profits will go towards a large portion of those will go towards wildlife conservation. So I'm doing everything I can with the things that I believe in and things that I'm good at to try and make a difference. You know, everybody can make a
I love
difference
it.
in something. So I'm using my aesthetics and my talent as a photographer or director or just humanitarian, and that's when I wake up in the morning, I feel good that I am at least trying to make a difference.
I love it. I mean, like, I love every aspect of it. I mean, like, if I go back and I look at your organization and I'm looking at Lionheart Love, and I know you have the prints, I know you have the t shirts, now you have a magazine, I know you have coffee table books.
Well, I mean, I also took this time in the mountains prior to editing the documentary, but
Yeah.
I'm with a prominent gallery in Los Angeles and other places in the world, and they always said you need to do a coffee table book, which is every photographer's dream, by the way, to have their coffee table book. So I designed three. You know, I did the first one is called Artist of Light, and um, have different publishing deals being offered to me. So, but I hope that will come out in by 2022. I'm hoping it's about 600 pages of a kind of a potpourri of my work, and then I have another book called
Wait,
Make It.
so was it 600 pages?
Yeah, it's
That's okay,
well,
but
listen, Peter
okay.
Beer's first book was 758. So
So I shouldn't be shocked. All right. So
Right.
I was just thinking about it. I was just like, all right. That's pretty thick, but that's healthy and good information.
Well, because I am a wildlife photographer, but I'm also
Yeah.
a lifestyle or a nude or a journal. I wear different hats as a photographer. And so I decided this first book would have all those hats. I still plan on one day doing a wildlife book. That it's a dream of mine. But I want to go back to Africa I'll probably go to Africa and rent a Land Rover and go with a South African buddy of mine and drive around Africa for a year and then come back and do a book. In fact, I can't wait to do that, quite honestly.
Make sure you come to Kenya, and when you come to Kenya, please
I
make sure you
will.
call me. I
I
mean,
certainly
because if
will.
I because if I come to California before you come to Kenya, I'm just like, listen, we need to find a spot like Trocaderos to like do something beautiful. But
We can
um,
do that. That'd be a pleasure. We can definitely do that. So, Lionheart Love was made to. It's one of the production companies doing something that matters, and
yes,
and then it's I'm taking on other initiatives underneath the Lionheart Love umbrella to try to bring awareness and also raise money for wildlife um, as well. So it's of course it's an ongoing thing, and I'm not going to stay forever up in a cabin in the woods. I'll set up shop in probably Los Angeles or back in New York again with a studio and a place where people can, where I can oversee the different projects that I have going, you know. So I can't continue to do everything myself. I need to have other people. That's for sure.
yeah. And how can people, how can people contribute to um say something that matters, this beautiful campaign that you have going on about you?
Well, there's if you go to Lionheart Love website, there's a donation button. It's very simple, very easy.
All right.
That's or they can contact me directly, and I'll any way they want. I can take money any way they want. It's not a problem, not a problem. But the easiest way is on the website. There's a donation button, which is
So what's your
but there
website? It's triple W dot.
it's Lionheart. The film in is Lionheart Love, LYONHERTLOVE, one word, .org.
Okay. Okay.
And that's that. My photography website is super easy. It's stephenlyon.com. If people want to see
Okay.
what my photography is all about, that's where they would go. And my work is sold in different galleries around the world, but I also sell it directly. So they can email me from my website if they're interested in any of my works. I only sell imagery in platinum or silver gelatin. I don't sell any digital prints. Everything is shot on
Okay.
film, and my work is always exhibited in more of a traditional kind of a print, which is much more beautiful. So
But
there we go.
I think you're doing so many amazing things, and um I'm going to engage you in collaborations, Mr.
Okay.
Stephen. I
Okay.
mean, I feel like I think you could contribute to so many things. I mean, there's people here, um, um, there's Paula Kahumbu, who's big on conservation, on elephants, on she's like you. I mean, like she does so many amazing things in terms of being an animal activist, and I feel like um, people like her. I'm going to do another interview, but I want to do another one with you and her,
Okay.
especially just about wildlife and where you guys sit and where you guys stand and where you guys fall and what you guys are looking for. Because on the back end of everything that you're doing, it is not an easy task. It is, um, it's not an easy task. I mean, you guys have taken on a burden that we will like, having likes on a page, great. But what are we doing toward it?
Well, that's what I
and
said
how we
before.
contribute things.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to make a difference with the ways that I see alike
Yeah,
that I can maybe do. Everybody has something else they can do. People say, well, why are you trying to help rhinos? Why don't you help starving kids in Sudan, or why don't you help the homeless in Los Angeles? And you know what? I would like to, but I've only got so much resources and time, and I've chosen to focus my help on this particular issue. Doesn't mean it's any more important than any of the other issues. But for the
right,
moment, that's what I'm doing, you know. And maybe
right.
when something that matters it comes out, and I'm sure I'll feel the need to help. Listen, I'm a big animal guy, so there's there's so many ways that I could put my time and energy into helping with causes. I don't know if making more documentaries will happen. It might, but certainly using my artwork and selling my imagery and donating proceeds of those profits to wildlife or environmental or social charities, that will always be part of my future. Definitely.
Absolutely. You know what? Wherever you feel that I can contribute, if there's things that you feel that I need to put out there in any of my podcasts, I'm definitely here. I'm going to be a very keen supporter of
I appreciate that.
lionheartlove.org. No, it really is. I mean, like, I live in Africa. We hear the horror stories. We hear it firsthand. And it's not pleasant. We have a depleting amount of rhinos at this point. We're talking
We
even
do.
about the white rhino, where like it's really sad. And I don't know. I mean, when we talk about elephants and our beautiful friend Jackie, she wanted to go to the elephant sanctuary, and she's not able to go there right now because they're closed. But
Right.
we think about beautiful things like that, animal nature. Um, yeah,
I
this is
mean,
where we are.
listen, the only way to stop the poaching is to stop the demand. And
How
most
do
of the
we do
demand,
that? How do we do that?
most well, I'm really hoping to make a film that will get seen in Asia. You know, I'm not going to sit there and have a narrative that that bashes the beliefs of Asian cultures because they're thousands of years old. But I'm hoping to make a film that will appeal to the young generation, the new generation, who actually can make a difference and make a conscious decision that they don't want to have a rhino horn on their mantle and shave off little bits of it to show their other rich friends that they have the means to get it. It's the rhino horn has really become a party favor. It's not really they know that it's not a cure for cancer. It's not going to fix your flagellant penis. It's not going to fix anything. It's literally keratin, and you might as well be snorting your toenails. It's all it is. And but
Lord Jesus.
the fact that it's so dangerous to attain, it's so expensive, makes it coveted so much more. So people, the rich people in whatever societies in America as well, you can get rhino horn in Manhattan, you can get it in San Francisco. It's not only Asia. America's right behind them, in Russia as well, as far as consumers. So I'm hoping to make a film that will be seen by the younger generation, and they'll go, you know what, this is pretty effed up. We shouldn't be doing this. We don't need that, Dad. We don't need to have that on the mantle right there. That's not acceptable anymore. You know.
Yeah.
So it's a long journey, and the trick is keeping these species alive and breeding and increasing their numbers while we try to change the mind of other cultures to consume it. It's
Right.
it's this really difficult task. It's a difficult task, but
Let me
we
know.
we certainly can't give up. We certainly cannot give up.
Let me know what you need from my end. I'm definitely here for you.
I
I'm
appreciate
definitely
that.
here to support everything that you're doing. I think it's absolutely fantastic. And You really are a Renaissance man. I mean, like, maybe at some point I was just like, let's just call him the Renaissance man. But you really are the Renaissance man. I absolutely adore you, and I think that you're fantastic.
Did I mention that I cook and play guitar? Okay.
Did you mention what? What did you mention?
That I cook and play guitar.
Oh God, you cook?
I love the.
Can we have a cook? Can we have a cooking session, please?
We can absolutely have a cooking session.
No, I'm serious.
Although I took on the new lifestyle of being a vegan.
That's okay.
I couldn't try to help animals and at the same time eat them at the same time. It just didn't seem right. So I took that on about 4 or 5 years ago.
I'll follow your path if you teach me how to cook vegan.
That's why that restaurant in Nairobi, Carnivore, there's got nothing for me anymore.
But, let me just look this direction. Future sponsors, hello.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's fine.
It's just a decision. It's a decision that I made. It's not a decision that I don't expect anybody else to make, and I certainly don't. I don't impart my beliefs on my family or my friends or anybody else. Everybody has to come to their own conclusion in their own time. So,
all I'm saying is that I'm just going to walk with you right now. I really want to learn how to cook vegan, so I really want you to teach me how to cook vegan. If we can have a session of maybe 2 dishes, pick your best 2 dishes. Let's do it together. I'm serious.
That would be cool,
Stephen. Like, come on.
There's incredible cookbooks for vegan now. I mean, it's really That's the thing. If you're gonna take on that lifestyle, you really do need to know how to cook. Otherwise, it's gonna suck being a vegan. You're gonna be like, what am I eating?
Right.
Whereas if you can cook, you can come up with amazing dishes, unbelievable dishes. So.
All right.
Anyway,
Janelle,
not dwell on that. There's more important things, but it's something that I always believed one day I would become, and I think the documentary and taking on this journey kind of pushed me over the top to become that.
Right.
I remember, 15 years ago, I used to say, yeah, one day I'll probably be a vegan or a vegetarian. And I think that the documentary, the experience, pushed me over the top to take that on.
How do you feel now, having changed from, eating meats to being a vegan? How do you feel now?
Same.
With the lifestyle change, do you feel any difference in your body? Do you feel more energized, cleaner? Do you feel?
I guess I feel clean. I guess I feel cleaner. I dropped a little bit of weight, but I've always stayed in good shape, and I've always been a super clean. Typical meal for me was a steamed chicken breast over steamed broccoli with a salad. That's the way I always ate for the last 30 years, basically. So
yeah,
I've never been a fast food guy since I was a kid.
Right.
So it's not like it changed me completely. I just, I feel better knowing I'm not eating some terrified animal. That's all.
There we go.
Let's move on to something else. What do you say?
Yeah, I know.
More important things.
More importantly. So, okay. So I feel like let's talk about your coffee table book before we call it a night. Because let's talk about, I know it's going to be like a lot of pages. When does that come out? When can people expect that?
I'm hoping it comes out at the beginning of 2022, and usually a book release for a photographer will coincide with exhibitions in Berlin or Paris and New York. Obviously, those walk-in exhibitions are not happening because of COVID.
Of course.
But I imagine within the next 6 months to a year, hopefully for all of us, that will open up and it will be possible. So,
Indulge Magazine
should be out within the next few months. Of course, I would love you to give a shout out when it's actually available. That would be amazing.
Absolutely.
People should know my Instagram is Stephen_Lyon, and from there they can find. Lionheart Love has an Instagram, but I have my own, and I keep it up to date with what's going on. Um, I do have my hand in a lot of different pots,
Yeah.
but the most important thing, the thing that I have to keep focused on, is finishing the documentary. Everything else, first of all, everything else is pretty much done. So, and they can come out when they're supposed to come out. But I need to keep my energy focused on this documentary and finishing it. It's been a journey. It's been a journey that I've been on since 2013.
Wow.
I have never given up trying to find, fund, edit. I've never given up trying to get this film done. And so a lot of the rest of my things that I was doing, like photography, number one, really fell on the wayside because I was so consumed with trying to make this documentary. And I still am,
Wow.
but now I see light at the end of the tunnel. Like I said, I received a very generous donation from an angel investor, really great guy. And it's not enough to finish the movie, but it was definitely enough for me to really take up the torch again to see this through. And in doing so, I saw the possibilities of what this could really be. And like I said, I'm hoping to make a film that people really see, that will get a lot of coverage, because then I've done what I set out to do. It's the most I can ask for. It's not a
Right.
question of selling it for a lot of money to a network. It's a question of a lot of people seeing it.
Mm.
So
You're right. You're right. I mean, like, so whenever you want the screening done, I would love to, even pre-COVID, post-COVID. I don't know. We're in COVID, so we can figure out a way to do a screening of your movie when it does happen. I would love to
well,
invite you to Kenya.
I
So
would love that. Because I'm definitely going to do a screening in South Africa, where I made
yeah,
the film.
yeah,
Um, with all the people that were involved in that 4-month 1,000K journey. There was quite a few
yeah.
people behind the scenes that were involved in that, in sponsorships and whatnot. But I would love to jump on a plane and come to Nairobi and do a screening there too. Absolutely.
Well,
That
you
would
know what?
be
You're going to
that
be
would be
my
great.
you're going to be my guest. So absolutely. I know when I say and I point something and I say I'm going to do it. So you're going to be my guest. So you tell me
Well,
the
thank you.
dates and let's make it happen.
I
And
would
let's
I would really like that to happen.
yeah. And so I wore a really beautiful ring that I got. I don't know. I'm going to show it to you. Wait. Wait.
Oh, wow. Good thing I
Wait.
have my
Wait. Wait.
glasses
Wait.
on.
Wait. I know. So it's
Oh, look at those.
little prints,
Little
um,
lion paws.
little lion paws,
Mm,
and I actually got this one as a birthday present for my son when he was 1 year old, and from Matt Brown's. When you come to Nairobi, please come and visit Matt Brown's. They do some
okay.
really amazing work. So yeah, so
Okay. Listen,
artistically,
I love Africa, and I do. I love it. I mean, when you're walking around like Dar es Salaam in Tanzania, it's like the Wild West. It's a little bit. It's so cool, and I always feel very safe. And it's
yeah.
you don't know what to expect, and I just love it. Maybe one day I'll build a house in Zimbabwe or something and have a little place. I could see that happening. I could definitely see that
You know,
happening.
and you're most welcome. Well, come on over. Sending you love. Thank you so much for being part of this.
Oh, thank you for having me. Really,
You have
been
been
a thrill.
absolutely fantastic of a guest. I'm so thrilled. I mean, like you shared so much with me. You shared about Andy Warhol. You shared with me about your coffee table book that will be coming out in about 2022 with a generous amount of your beautiful work that you've worked so hard for. we're talking about the Something That Matters campaign, and people need to jump on board and support, which also goes back into your beautiful organization too, Lionheart Love
Yes.
organization.org. So if you're going to look for it,
Yes.
it's Lionheart Love, and let me just put it back up on the screen. Lionheartlove.org. And I feel
That's
like
it.
any go ahead, darling.
No, I said that's it. I was just reading it. That's it. You got it.
Yeah. And I think the most important things in life is really understanding what our purpose is, and how we can really change lives, change situations, change perspective, change, it's we're in an ecosystem that needs love, and that is where we
You
live.
are. And I just think everybody in one little way is capable of making a difference for something or somebody, you know.
Absolutely.
So, so there
Well,
you
you
go.
know what? When I come back to LA, and I hope I can come back to LA at some point really soon, I'm going to
Please.
look for you. And Trox is not there anymore, but I'm going to find a new spot, and I'm going to invite you. Or you can
Okay.
invite me to a really cool spot. I
I
don't
will
know what
invite
that.
you to a cool spot. No problem. I haven't
Yeah,
lived in Los Angeles in over 20 years, but I still know what's going on. So it's not
that's
a
cool.
problem.
That's you and I. So that's perfect. It just
Yeah.
makes for new adventures or
Absolutely.
something.
And Lord knows I've based my life on new adventures. I love adventures. So I can't wait for
Sending
the
you
next
love.
one. Thank you
Sending
very
you
much.
love.
Big kiss. Big kiss.
Thank you so much, everybody. If you want to follow, go into www.lionheartlove.org. You can check him out on Instagram. That is Stephen_Lyon. That's on Instagram. Follow his stories. Make sure you chime in if you want to contribute, if you want to donate. Just make sure that you do the right thing. And remember, in anything that you're doing, I hope I've inspired you. I hope I've brought somebody that has inspired you. To my sponsors, I want to say thank you to the Hub Karen. I know that we couldn't shoot from the Hub Karen. We've got our COVID situation going on here. We're on our third wave, but wishing everybody a beautiful and happy Easter. And
Yes.
stay safe, wear your masks, sanitize, and be blessed. Sending you love. Thank you so much, Stephen. Mwah. Thank you.
Love you, Africa. See you soon. For
Jackie,
sure.
thank you. Thank you so Jackie. All right.
Hakuna
Sending you
Matata.
love.
Okay.
Hakuna
Bye.
Matata, not here. Bye.
Okay. Bye.